Welcome to Friendly Argument with Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones.
Let's do this.
New stuff,
All the tangents.
some politics, booze,
Some more politics.
stuff about Kansas, and lots of cheer scenes.
Friendly Argument is a podcast showcasing conversations that seek common ground across the aisle of American politics, as well as a few laughs. We hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for watching.
So,
Welcome to Friendly Argument with Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones. You have to say the hello.
oh, hello. Oh, hello.
Hello.
Are we starting? I thought we were figuring out what we were doing.
No.
Okay, we're just starting.
We're going because
They get the full behind the scenes look today.
full behind the scenes, recording everything.
Mhm.
So friends before, friends during, friends after. Cheers. This is a weekend record, so you're getting coffee,
Casual,
Jeremy.
yeah.
Casual.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So my uniform is the hoodie. So this is my casual weekend.
There you go.
Clothing.
Nice. No hood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No hood. So we were talking a little bit beforehand, and so we thought we would start with Biden's first 50 days.
50 days, 50-ish days,
50-ish days.
50 plus days.
He's a lot of executive orders. We just had the stimulus relief plan get signed into law Thursday. I believe even some checks are going out today. And what we were chatting about before that was interesting to me was Andrew, your statement about the Biden being essentially a houseplant, which I think most liberals would agree with, but you're saying it's a mask for
getting crappy legislation or radical legislation through.
Radical legislation. Okay.
Because it's if you see like, oh, there's like sleepy old Joe who's not doing anything, and then you're like, then you don't look at like, oh, look at all this stuff that's getting ratified. Then it's like it's
ratifying the radical.
Exactly. Whereas, and this is a Shapiroism. It's like the moment Biden goes away, you get Kamala Harris in, and no one likes Kamala Harris, so all of a sudden everyone starts looking at everything. So if you keep, in this case, Joe, or if you keep somebody who's just kind of milquetoast in there, you can kind of just sweep under the rug all the stuff that you're doing.
Now, do you think that is what is happening, or does Ben Shapiro think that's what is happening, or do you
concur
is that what
Ben Shapiro? That's what's happening,
or is that you fear that's what's happening?
No, I think
the right fear.
I think that's what's happening because I mean, like I'm just going through. Let's see. If you look at I'm sure we could find, if we were a research doing podcast, we could go find all the stuff that like is in the last, I think what's it called? The American Rescue Plan, the $1.9 trillion. So if you look at it, like, so I think I'm talking off the top of my head, but I think it's like 329 billion of that's going to actual US citizens, right? It's like in the form of like stimulus checks.
Okay. When you say actual US citizens, so the rest of that money is not going to US citizens.
It's not going to you. Yeah, it's not going to like we the people. But I'm not saying it's like
it's still going to the US.
It's still going to you. I'm not saying like most of it's going
across the border. Okay.
No, it's going to
good point of clarification.
Yeah, it's going to the people. Then a lot of it is going to fund education. But when you look at the funding education, it's like almost exclusively going to like teachers unions.
Teachers unions.
Yeah. Then you have a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, we're going to help bail out the states.
So how would that work? How would it work? Teachers unions? Because I definitely understand like education systems. I definitely understand teachers unions. I don't know how you would give teachers unions money.
Because the teachers unions negotiate with the federal government, right? So what is in the stimulus bill?
So it's to pay teachers.
It's to pay teacher union priorities. Yeah, I mean, teachers are going to get paid in that, but it's not necessarily all teachers, like teachers pay. And even then, it's not necessarily, it's not like, oh, we're going to fund like, Nancy, what's a Joe Schmo is like the male version of it. What's like the female? Jane Schmo.
Just Jane.
We'll just say Jane. It's not going to go fund like teachers Jane's salary. It's going to go fund like the teachers union contracts, which not all of that goes to teachers unions or like goes to teachers.
Okay.
Right.
Like most of it would be.
I couldn't speak to most of it or not most of it, but my understanding.
But I mean, you've seen a budget. I've
seen a budget,
the amount of payroll that
yes,
it's
but
in a
like,
company.
yeah, but I also understand, like, I'm also been a part of a union. Like, not all of my like a lot of the union budget didn't go to me, right? But it's if you're funding the teachers union, you're funding their priorities, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're funding like teacher salary.
Sure.
Or even funding teachers, the teachers who are good teachers' salaries.
In the contract, because that's the contract that the teachers unions negotiate is for the teachers' pay and benefits, and then they do have things that I agree with and I disagree with teachers unions. The vast majority is teacher pay and benefits.
Potentially. I haven't seen it, but it's more of the issue that conservatives have, or at least that I have with it in my avatarism of conservatives, is it's going to pay off a public sector union, which then will donate money to the Democratic Party, which will then pay off the public sector union, which will then pay the Democratic Party.
And this is a material issue for you. Because it just seems like
it is a material issue because it's the same in the same, like, unions give more money than any other, like, political PAC money than any other source of income, and so, like, and I don't particularly like public sector unions, particularly because they're not negotiating with me, the taxpayer. They're negotiating with the elected representative that they just funded or whose campaign they just funded. So it's
every other corporation in the country.
How so? Like in a union, how, like a
military contractor
in a public sector union? How does that?
Yeah, it's the public sector and the private sector both are getting rewarded contracts from public entities.
Correct.
So
yeah. So I guess I don't see why there would be a military contract would be the same as a public sector union.
They're both rewarded by a public entity.
Correct. But with a military contract,
and the corporations can give money.
Yes, they can.
The same that the union gives.
Yeah, they can.
We have super PACs, so we don't even know what's going on.
But I don't like. So it's like I'm not particularly happy about either of it.
Okay.
But I'm just saying of the people who I say,
because you did make a point to say the unions. What do you
public sector unions?
Public sector unions.
Yes.
You did point that out several times, and my thing was, well, the private sector unions, a lot of similar rules and a lot of similar situations.
So I mean, but it's who you're negotiating with. So like a private sector union is negotiating with the company, right? So I'm not here. Maybe this will be the better.
Not a private sector union, a company. Any entity, private or public entity that is awarded a
private
public
sector
contract.
union, a private sector union is going to be negotiating with a company or companies within an industry, right?
Sorry, restate it.
Any private sector union, so like the steel mill workers.
Yeah, that's where I think we're missing.
Okay.
It's not a public versus private sector union. It's the rewarding of public contracts. And that can happen with a public entity on the other side or a private entity on the other side.
Granted, yes. But what I'm saying is this is because the public sector one, it is government people who are going to be employed by the government negotiating with the government, right? So the issue then is, so a private sector person, let's see if I can explain it this way. A private sector person who they're negotiating with is the manager, right? The manager is going to get hired by the company or by the shareholders to be in that position, right? He's not getting hired by the people he's negotiating with.
And when you say manager, you're talking like the CEO.
Or whoever's negotiating with the union. We'll say the C-suite, right?
That's negotiating with the public entity.
The private sector union.
Okay, so we're talking about a whole different private to union. So we're still on.
So we're talking about private sector unions versus public sector unions.
Right, which is the distinction I was trying to draw. That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, so I guess what are you talking about?
Any entity being rewarded a contract from a public entity, public or private, can give money to the
yes.
to
But what
the-
I'm saying is I'm saying the issue. I'm saying that is an issue. I think that's a separate issue
yeah.
because it is. So in that space of anyone giving money to any particular one person, that is it's a third party transaction or an unrelated party transaction.
So the public,
So the public sector unions, going back to what I was saying before. So in a private sector negotiation with a private sector union, the union does not have any power to hire or fire the manager they're negotiating with, or the CEO they're negotiating with.
okay.
That comes from other sources.
Yeah.
Right. In a public sector negotiation, the public sector union is negotiating most of the time with people that they funded to get into that position. So it's a related party negotiation, and that's where I have an issue with it.
Is there any situation where you are negotiating with a public entity where that is not the case? What you're worried about happening there? And if there is no distinction,
maybe define so are you saying like with contract awards, or are you saying with
a state, we'll just say a state.
Mm-hmm.
A state is rewarding contracts for work. Anybody can fund, public entity can, private entity can, public union can, private company can fund them. And so they're always negotiating in any situation where you have a state negotiating and rewarding a contract. Those elected officials of that state are receiving donations and put in place, or they're fighting over whether it's public or private. So the difference, it seems like a different distinction to keep drawing.
So I think, and maybe this is what we're missing, is
good.
So the difference in those negotiations are, it's the state is putting out, this is what we want, and multiple entities are saying we can do that, right? And so yes, there is probably graft in that process to choose maybe not the best one. And that is that is a problem, but I think that's a separate issue.
Okay.
So the difference being is this is supposed to be a free market of people presenting ideas and solutions to fill the contract, versus a two related parties negotiating a contract, right? So it is in this party's best interest to get whatever this party wants done, and they're going to just take funds. Move funds here, or I guess that doesn't really matter, but is that distinction?
I think you might have lost me in the pronouns there.
Okay.
So we're talking about a state. You want more. You want them to negotiate more than just between Coke and Pepsi. You want there to be more than one or two options for them. For the state to negotiate.
So the state, what I'm saying, it's not that what I want. I'm saying what I see the situation is the state wants a soda beverage, right? So they put it out there, hey, we want a soda beverage. Coke comes to them, Pepsi comes to them, RC comes to them. Is Sprite
Dr. Pepper is its own thing.
Is it Dr. Pepper? Okay. Does Dr. Pepper own Sprite? Somebody weird owns Sprite. I don't think Coca-Cola owns Sprite.
I don't.
Or maybe it's 7-Up. Either way.
I used to really
so like 4 different entities come in and say, we will fulfill your soda beverage thing, right? Whereas the public sector union is, negotiations are more, the state has to have an energy drink, right? And the only player is Red Bull. And so Red Bull is like, well, okay, we want to get the person who's not going to give us everything we want on the other side of the table. So we are going to pour a bunch of money into getting the person we want elected, so they're on the other side of the table, and then they're going to give us all of the money we could possibly ever want, and then it just becomes a secular thing,
right?
And they're not necessarily negotiating and in that point, with the energy drink drinkers, right, it's not so much what's best for the energy drink drinkers, right?
Yeah,
it's what's best for the people who make the energy drink and the politician elected.
Totally. And I follow all that, agree with all that, see all the things wrong with that. The issue that I would have is with you keep going back to, public unions or
Public sector unions.
Public sector unions. That situation is literally in every negotiation. Like probably the number one worst situation I would say is in finance in the United States. And because the SEC is full of people that used to work at Goldman Sachs.
Yes.
But
that's still a public sector issue.
For sure, but these are private entities. But you keep drawing the distinction: public sector, union.
Yeah.
Where it's not. It doesn't seem to. That doesn't change. That situation doesn't change when a public sector union is part of it. It seems to be how the powers that be have set up the state to be in its favor and made campaigns so expensive and made them so reliant on it, as opposed to changing how we fund campaigns. That I think would change that situation more than
a
public sector.
I can agree to that.
Keep going after the public sector union.
Well, yes, I can agree. Like that campaigns finance reform, or rather getting corporatism out of our government, would be a very good thing.
I would put that on a friendly argument t-shirt.
Yes. Corporatism
out of our government.
Yes.
Drink to that.
Yes. But the problem I have, where I think it's a little more insidious with the public sector unions, is so the teachers union isn't negotiating they're negotiating for the teachers. They're not negotiating for the kids. Right.
Oh,
their
for
impetus
sure.
is that. And so that's where I start having a real problem with it, because
have you ever worked in schools?
I have not.
You have never worked in higher education?
No, my sister-in-law is a teacher. I think she was in the California State Teachers Union, so she could probably speak better to it than I could.
Well, I have some teaching experience, and my last situation was I was volunteering with a program that was transitioning behavioral issue kids back into general population classrums, and
this sounds so jelly.
We're
transitioning you back into Gen Pop.
Yeah, it was just it was a great elementary school, and it was. But my thing was that the teachers, for the most part, like basically teachers unions and the way that the contracts are set up really reward seniority, and it doesn't reward good, productive teachers.
Yeah,
and
it's a problem with unions in general.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of improvements to be made in the unions. The way that we've destroyed them in the United States since my dad was born to now, and we have so few, and they've had to coalesce. Like it's served to hurt the people that we care about, the kids, the workers, and all that sort of thing.
So I guess I think I agree with a lot of that. I don't know if this may be a tangent, but I guess I kind of, when you say
it wouldn't be fair to me argument.
Yeah, that's true. When you say like we destroyed the unions, I would assume that you mean like politicians, big business, etc. is the assumption there.
Let's to use your term, corporatism.
Okay.
Corporatism.
I mean, that could be the case, but my understanding of why we don't see a lot of private sector unions anymore is because there was just a lot of they served their purpose. People didn't want to be represented by them anymore, and then they died out on their own.
Yeah,
I particularly like
terribly convenient narrative for the corporations.
I mean, you can say that, but like I didn't want to be a part of a union. When I came out here, I had to join the union. Like the point of the union is for salary and working conditions regulation, right?
Yep.
So once that standard's met and that's industry standard, there's not really a point of having a union.
So
if I can go out and I can market myself and get the wage that I want on my own, why should I pay dues?
Sure. So the quick answers are divide and conquer strategies work, and unions are necessary for broken industries. And that is maybe getting those. And I would say a broken industry, for the quick and dirty terms of friendly argument conversation is where corporatism reigns.
Okay.
And
yeah.
and not corporatism reigns in the industry,
Mhm.
not in the particular. You can have a good company here, a good company
Yeah.
there, but if they're surrounded by 8 lousy companies all doing the same thing,
Yeah.
you're going to get a broken industry.
Yeah.
And so
before you finish that,
Yeah.
I'm just going to dovetail our entire conversation because I have a real life example that I would like us to talk through.
Yeah.
So go ahead and finish your point, and then I'll dovetail it.
So the great example of where unions are helpful is Hollywood.
Mhm.
If anybody's worked out here, and actually, it's kind of, now that I think about it, it's sort of the best and worst case of both
It is.
situations, because never has there been an industry that I can think of that needs more protections for the workers,
Mhm.
and never have I seen more terrible union behavior
Mhm.
than both of those things. I would say were
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, this is I think where we'll have an actual productive and interesting conversation, because
Woo!
so the example
Better
I
be
was,
careful.
yeah, so
My-
the example I was going to bring up is Hollywood adjacent. So it's the video game industry. So a lot of yeah, well, so yeah, I'll walk through at least through the basics as I understand it.
Please.
So I don't really care about the voice actors part of it. Well, we can bring the voice actors into it later. So first fact pattern, right? So in order to create a video game, it takes like 200 to 300 people working on it, and like
Similar to a film.
Yeah, but like even more so. Like a film is like it's 200 to 300 people for maybe 6 months tops for like a Lord of the Rings thing.
Yeah.
Whereas like to make a video game, you're having 200 to 300 people working exclusively on that game for a year to 2 years. And that's a really tight schedule. So like you look at like the Call of Duty, like the big franchises like Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed,
Tier 1,
AAA.
Okay.
We talked about this last week.
I tried.
Yeah, so like your big AAA games. So maybe not like Madden or like the sports franchisey ones, because at the end of the day, it's basically just the same game with a couple new things put in.
Sure.
So it's like it's still technically a AAA game, but it's not like
Marshawn Lynch in, Marshawn Lynch out.
Yeah. Do you put Colin Kaepernick back in, or do you take him out?
Back
off? So anywho, so we'll just take like an Assassin's Creed game. So like Assassin's Creed, in order to be like a real franchise, needs to create a basically massive world, like open world game that's beautiful every other year, effectively. So they're just so like with do you know what a DLC is? Okay, well, and I assume some of our audience doesn't.
I've seen TLC live.
Yeah. Oh,
they're great.
I hate you. Oh wait, no.
You
Sorry.
don't like TLC?
No. I was thinking of TGIF. Not TLC. TLC is a fun band. I do like them, but I was thinking of that like Friday. Thank God it's Friday MTV show. That's like good. It was like Good Morning America, only for like the top 100 or top 10 music videos.
Total Request Live.
There
TRL.
TRL.
Wow,
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Forever.
That's why I was giving you crap about it.
I would have saw that.
Yeah. So a DLC is downloadable content. So it's like you buy the game.
Downloadable content.
Yeah, you buy the game, and there's like the main quest, and then a bunch of like side things you can do. And so that's like you can have the complete game. So then what they do, like in the interim, they're like, well, while we're working on the next thing, what we're going to do is just add on chapters. So it's like if you've ever read, like if you read the Harry, it'd be like the same as like if J.K.
Rowling.
Thank you. J.K. Rowling wrote a Harry Potter book, right? And then while she was writing the next one, she's like, and this is what happened over the summer. Like a little fun, like Harry went to the zoo adventure or something.
Yeah. Cool.
So they put in DLCs. So all of this takes an ungodly amount of work. And so normally in like most businesses, you'll have we'll say in accounting, because that's one that we know. So like in accounting from December 31st, or at least in public accounting, December 31st to April 16th, you're working 80-hour weeks,
Mm,
right?
Yeah.
Like you just are, because
Yep.
everybody's got to get the crap done. You got to get it in.
Oh man.
Like it's the deadline, but everyone knows that. And so it's like, all right, everyone puts their nose to the grindstone for 4 months, and then everyone gets like a month or two off
Yep.
sometime after that. Right.
Yep.
And that's just, and everyone top down 80-hour weeks.
Yeah.
There's other industries where it's like, okay, well, like your C-suite is working 80-hour weeks because they're responsible for everything that's going on. But like your Joe Schmo worker, like, okay, so Wendy's corporate office, probably 50% of the corporate office are working 68-hour weeks, but they're getting paid for it.
Yeah.
Whereas like, your fry guy is working 40 hours tops and going home at the end of the day and doesn't really care.
Yeah.
Right. So in the video
games.
video game industry, my understanding is they will finish a game, they'll launch it, and then they have to fix everything. So it's like almost nonstop, 40 plus to 80 plus hour weeks for maybe not the executives, but for all of the underlings.
Sure.
And the expectation, I think actually, I've heard stories that SpaceX is like this too.
This sounds very similar to some places. I know reality TV is similar to this. I know high visual effect films are like that as well.
Yeah. And so and it's like if you want to work in the gaming industry, like as a graphic designer, graphic artist, or what, code monkey or whatever, like you're just expected to work that. And when you say, hey, I can't work this much, the answer is, oh, well, we've got like 8 people from coming out of Full Sail University, which is like the big gaming network of university, is like, I've got 8 people behind you. You don't like it.
Yeah.
Go. And so Hollywood's the same way.
1,000,000%.
And like everyone wants to do it. And so where I guess I want to have the conversation or the talk out is I'm on both sides of this debate, because at one point, I don't think unionization will necessarily help in the long run. But I also see a very good argument for this is an area where unionization would actually be the probably right thing to do.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, then, it's in my mind, like, all right, you unionize, it makes things better for about 5 years. And all of a sudden, every other dreamer who wants in can't break into the industry. And then you start getting the people who have just been grandfathered in and aren't actually that good in positions. So so that's the fact pattern.
Yeah.
Initial thoughts.
So the having experienced all that 1,000,000% myself, the way that I think it's what I forget where I heard this, but employment is the worst thing in the world except compared to the alternative. Same thing with unions. It's the worst thing in the world except compared with the alternative. You need, I mean, I suppose if you had better policies and protections for workers as like law, you wouldn't need unions.
But we have policies and protections in place already. Like you have the overtime,
complete high quality. That's where, you know what I mean? It's not, it's a system again, made by, that unholy marriage between, our corporations and our lobbyists and I guess polygamy and the elected officials. So you have those three all working together in this, like, you scratch mine, I'll scratch yours. And the great unwashed aren't getting their fair shake. The mighty do what they want. And
I think that's part of the problem.
We'll do what they endure. We have to.
Yeah. I think that's part of the problem. Like, I think that's a contributing factor. That's a large contributing factor to the problem. I think the other problem is like whatever laws you put in place are always going to be general. And so they can't necessarily speak to specific situations or be dynamic enough to change when they need to change. So you just calcify. Yeah. Like, even if you set up, like, I think the 40-hour work week was a really good law that put in place with punishments.
Thanks, unions.
Yeah. I'm not saying that they didn't have their place. I just don't think that. I think the problem with unions is the same thing. They get in there, they calcify, and they become a problem. Sounds like, what's the phrase about movements? The first generation
innovators, imitators, and idiots. Yeah. So I think that is true. I think you and I, particularly you, know better than most that the devil is in the details, and you can write those laws in a way that they don't calcify. You can adjust as you go. We have a whole mechanism of, a sophisticated mechanism anywhere in the world for governance to adjust these things and to, I think of buildings, adjusting code and adjusting, all these different requirements that are this constantly evolving thing. And so that it calcifies because we allow it to calcify, and we allow it to calcify because corporatism in hand with the government and the elected officials want it to.
Can you think of a real life example?
Tax code is so unbelievably detailed.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked at the tax library in my college, and it was a floor. The tax code is a floor of a library.
But would you say that tax code is well administered?
There's going to be, no system is perfect.
Granted.
Absolutely, you can find chinks in every piece of armor, but saying law is general, full stop. Like, there's definitely law that it's not. There's definitely law that's terribly detail oriented.
Okay.
Unbelievably so.
But I would still argue that it's not dynamic, because it's I don't know that I would think of I don't know that there's too many people who think of the IRS and think competency.
Yeah, well, I mean, I dealt with them before they went on their charm offensive, and I've dealt with them post charm offensive, and there are definitely places I would much rather not call than the IRS. The California Franchise Tax Board is one of them.
Well, granted, but that's just California's IRS.
Exactly, but I do think the IRS is particularly competent, and my experience, particularly in the past few years, past several years, have been positive. So there are ways to do it, but the way that we go about it now is not the right way to do it. And this is another area where I think that there is a lot of common ground between both sides, but that doesn't serve, the people shoving the money in their pockets as much as it serves them more than it serves the general population.
So I think because what I'm hearing you say is there needs to be basically bigger and bigger government, which I don't like, but I think at the end of the day, I don't like it because I just see it as calcification and not allowing individual human flourishing, because you take away more and more self-actualization. That being said, I think I could agree with you if we were at a point where laws had to be moved around a lot.
Yeah.
If laws were semi-flimsy things, or at least details of laws were semi-flimsy things, Ten Commandment level laws. We probably don't need to talk about you can't murder people every couple of years, but maybe we need to revisit our labor laws every 5 or 10 years.
Sure. And
but then that becomes a power source, and then money comes in. But
what I think, unfortunately, it comes down to is good laws and good administrators. And you need a good foundation of laws for them to administer. And then you need a good person in there administering it. And that is going to save you a lot, because I've worked with people in city law when we were, in code, building houses in Chicago. And this one guy was great. You knew if you went to him, he was the final word on it. And he was known for being fair.
Yeah.
And in my experience, that is 100% the case with this dude. Now, that is hard. That's not always easy to find. You know what I mean?
My next question was and this is maybe another dovetail of a conversation, is government capable fundamentally of consistently hiring talent?
Well, yeah, I think if we change who we worship in our society, we worship the moneymakers, we worship the merchant class, we worship the big tug.
But do you would making government jobs high paying actually?
Well, I didn't say anything about money.
Okay, so you're just saying worship because
we have to change our heroes.
I'm still trying to I'm trying to decide if I agree that that's a solution or not. Like, I mean, it's not going to be a panacea, clearly, but I'm trying to decide in my own mind if that's going to be if worship.
Think about judges.
Yeah, but
that's what I think of. Like, because that's an administrator.
Yeah.
You know, right? I mean, that's a really.
It's also an elected position.
And you can change that too if you need to.
No,
but,
like I don't have a problem with it being elected. I'm saying so like I'm trying to decide like what would make a self-interested person choose, like let's say they could go and be a DMV person or they could go into private business. Right.
Yeah, I think we'd have to change
how do you make it so like that the DMV is like the self-interested making decisions. That's the one I want to do.
Yeah,
because I don't see like most people aren't going to be self-interested in like service is not a thing that most people are do in their own self-interest.
I don't think anybody does service in their self-interest, but everybody is interested in some service and getting some fulfillment from their job and helping others. I mean, look around. Everybody cares to their degree about others and servicing others. So it's always in there. But if
probably should say serving others, by the way.
Serving others. Sorry. I'm not that sorry about it, but I hear you. So I think that there is ways to do it, but I think and now I'm starting to sound like Andrew, it's a cultural change. This, how we see the DMV, how we see teachers. These are not revered, people, and how we see scientists, how we see research science, like that. The stuff that they're doing is big time helping us. And it's not the most lucrative thing ever, but they probably have a lot of freedom because they're able to, well, let me try this, let me try that. That can go a long way with people.
Yeah.
So I think that there's ways to do it. I just think that everything that Biden has been doing in the last 50 days has totally helped that. I tried.
And I think everything he's been doing is just public sector corporatism.
The public sector corporatism. Okay. So outside of the unions, like, because we really deep dived on that.
So the other like
other things,
there's like other big chunks of it that are more than like what the taxpayers are getting. So there's some of it is going to public sector unions.
Right.
Which
I feel like
would argue
that.
Yes, which I would argue are buy-offs. And then there's others going to states to help economic fallout. Right. And most of these the states that are getting that are states that have a budget deficit already. So it's like New York, California.
So here's what I'm done with.
Big union states.
Splitting up the country. It's not helping us. The mentally doing it, and it's hurting the nation as like the people of the country.
Okay.
And so, more people live in California. Yep. They need more money.
Yeah.
Like it's just,
well, hold on. So
LA
before you get into that. So LA has more people, right?
Yeah.
So it should have more money.
Yeah.
Right. It has a bigger tax base. Right. So if it has a bigger tax base, it should be making more money, getting more tax revenues to help the people to help its larger population, right?
Yeah, and
like Kansas has taxes. Yeah, we do. So there's no reason. So why do we have a deficit?
Because we still have more.
We choose to spend money on stuff. We don't have to spend all the money that we make, more money than we make. It's the family budget. Like why in California are we spending on the credit card?
You know enough about the difference between a corporate balance sheet versus, and I mean, I've forgotten most of it, but governmental accounting is different, and because the aim is different. So
okay, that's fine.
The language is different.
But the issue is like, why should Texas help pay for California?
Number one, we're America, period. And more money goes out of California to fund the rest of the states than it does. Alaska is a big, all the smaller population states.
Okay.
We get less for our tax dollar than any other state in the union. So it's not,
So-
this splitting us up isn't
But
helping anybody.
but okay, so fine, then I'm willing to say, then let's
So
not,
caffeinated.
let's not do that. Let California spend what California makes, let Kansas spend what Kansas makes.
Splitting up, it doesn't help.
But I mean, it's still like, well, but I mean, so it's still, you're still asking people who live under different policies to pay for other people's policies.
Other Americans.
Yeah, that's fine.
I've been doing it as a California citizen. I've been doing it as a Chicago citizen for the rest of the state of Illinois. Yeah, you can handle it. You're
Okay,
fine. And if you don't want to do that, then you need to rethink America, how you think about America.
But so let's just say every state does that. Every state just runs a deficit and has to be bailed out by the federal government. Where does the deficit come from?
Where does the deficit come from?
Yeah, how do we make
up the deficit? It comes from us. It's always going to go back to us.
But I'm saying, like, if everyone's costing more than we're bringing in, we don't have a way to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like,
so the original, so like we're talking now going back to like Magna Carta level, like the birth of the idea of the Commonwealth. We have all made America better through our productivity by being part of this society.
Okay.
So we can draw upon that. You know, the Fed prints money, you know what I mean? All the different ways that we can do that, lower interest rate, all the different things. So that, and we can do that. And because our ancestors were awesome, work their asses off, work their tails off, and we're working our tails off. And so, yeah, we get to do that. We get to tap into that Commonwealth because we built up more Commonwealth. Okay. And that is, but if it looks on a balance sheet, if it looks like a deficit for a while, that's okay. That's okay.
That's okay. Like, I understand that, but I don't see how that's helping your point. How does our Commonwealth, like, how does a federal issue help a local issue? Why? Because
you wipe out federal, you wipe out local, and you just call it us. You just call it the Commonwealth.
But the problem, what makes America great is it is the United States. It means that people who are very cultural. It's one of the things that makes us great. I'm different culturally than most everyone from around here. Right. But I still consider myself an American. I still consider them Americans. Yeah. But I also have the option that if I don't want to live with like the way the Californians want to live, I can go back to Kansas and live like a Kansan. And we're still Americans, but their things that I think are stupid aren't going to affect me. And the things that they think are stupid are not going to affect me.
Sure.
Right. And so those policies will have monetary effects. Yeah. So if my monetary policy is such that I'm like, hey, we don't need to spend as much as a government. We're going to have a surplus or run right at things. Great. If the monetary policies over here, regardless of the amount of people, are causing it to have a deficit, maybe you need to look at those monetary policies and what you're spending money on. But you shouldn't have to ask, like, if I don't want to live like that, if I don't want to live on a credit card and I choose to just live within my means, why do I have to pay for my neighbor's credit card?
Yeah, and so this issue is great because this is a real line issue. Where is the line? And I think that the best way, or the most clear way I can think of, is the EU right now. The northern states versus the southern states. Like, there's a difference. Germany doesn't do the debt thing as much as Greece and Italy. Part of the same, you know, the EU was created. Same
welfare benefits.
Don't have the same welfare benefits. Don't have, you know, different. And now you're talking true sovereignty. You know what I mean? Like, so you take federalism up a level, but they're having to find that line too, because there's a lot of the. I forget which one of the exact countries, but Germany is certainly
Germany pays for everything, pretty much everything. It's like Germany, and then I think France. It was Germany, then England, and then France, but
and the UK left. So now we're playing with that. So all of these things do that line argument is eternal and totally matters.
Mhm.
My contention on that argument is if you are going to be a member of X, America, if you're going to be a member of the EU, that's the party you signed up for. And I'm okay. I'm personally okay with that. Dude, nobody is luckier than I am. You know, white dude, able-bodied, college degree, like, yeah, I can absolutely pay for my way and a couple other people's way. That's because I'm capable of it. So I'm capable of more, so I'm responsible for a little more. Totally fine with that. Totally fine and totally fine if there's some waste in the system too, because no system is perfect. I'm not perfect, so I'm going to expect that from the folks around me and the governance and the administrators and the law. So, but these people still need help. They're still good people, and they could be a really good person who they could be a below 100 IQ, that's a below average, and still a great citizen. But they got a gang of kids. I don't have any kids, so I got to pay for their kids. Yeah, I got to pay for their kids.
Okay, that's all of what you said is fine, and I agree with it. But I think I would quibble with what you said, what we were born into. You were born into the United States of America. It's not, we are Americans, but we are technically United States of Americans. Like we were born into
want to focus on that.
We were born. Yes, I do because we were born into a federalist society. We were born into a country that says, hey, you don't have to live in the culture, the specific subculture that you are born, like you're born into. You can go somewhere else and live like those people while still being a part of the greater culture.
Sure.
So when that comes down to it, it's like we all need to pay for similar things, right? Or for the commonwealth. But that doesn't mean that we need to pay for other subcultures' ideas.
I would say that the juice is worth the squeeze. The diversity, the benefits of diversity, and the benefits of subcultures
but you're living in a
worth the pay.
That I agree. Yes, having the subcultures is great. It's part of what makes us awesome.
Yeah,
it's a major part of what makes us awesome.
I would agree.
That being said, shouldn't be forced to live under a subculture I don't want to live under. And so if everything gets wiped away, right? Like there's just local and national, right? It becomes one culture. The laws are all the same. And I don't want the laws all to be the same. And when there's different laws, there's different monetary policies.
Yeah.
And if
you got to pay for that.
But I don't have to pay for somebody else's monetary policy. I'm living under a different set of rules. So if my set of rules means that we don't have a deficit, then we shouldn't have to pay for a different set of rules that does run a deficit.
Sure. Maybe you have to pay for the ability to be part of the greater and still have the sub. So if you get to have your subculture different from another subculture.
That doesn't mean that another subculture doesn't have the right to take from my subculture.
I don't think it's about right. I don't think it's about rights.
One subculture is taking from another subculture. Let me rephrase that. One subculture is forcing another subculture to give it resources. Is that right? Or does that one subculture have the right to say, no, that's not your resources, that's my resources?
Yeah, I don't feel forced.
Well, but you're living in a credit card house. I don't want to live in the credit card house. I want to live in the house that lives within its means.
We're all in a credit card house. Every American is in a credit card house.
I'm speaking metaphorically, Jeremy.
Yeah. So, yes, there is a want to be able to look at someone else in the same boat and be like, you bad, me good. And like, but that's
not what I'm doing. I'm asking
I don't think there's a forcing. I don't think there's a forcing to do it. You're an American state.
My federal tax dollars are going to states that are not actually having a economic shortfall, but are going to cover a deficit because of policies that state put in place. Why should my federal dollars go to help out a state issue?
Because you're American. Unless you want to fundamentally change that.
Fine. Okay. So if that's the case, then I think that if Kansas were to just be like, we're now a Christo state, we're going to take all the money, like $3 billion out in federal loans, and we're just going to proselytize. And now we have a deficit. The federal government needs to pay for that. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. And I'm going to do everything I can to change that.
But you don't have the right to change that because you don't live in Kansas.
I have a vote. I have a federal vote.
But you don't have a state vote.
I don't necessarily need one. I don't think that is so anti-American. I think it wouldn't stand up.
But I'm making an outsized
example. For
like,
sure.
I'm just saying. So like, if that happened, you don't get to say in that because you don't live in Kansas.
Right.
Let's say Texas. Texas is a better equivalent. Let's say Texas just goes full hardcore evangelical.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. They run up $1 trillion in debt in state stuff, and then the federal government bails them out because they've created a theocracy.
Yeah.
Right. But you don't live in Texas. You don't get to vote for that. But your federal dollars are going to pay for it now.
Yep.
Are you still okay with that?
I have to be, but I also, before they get to $1 trillion, I'll do what I can to.
But I'm saying is like you don't.
Yeah,
you
I
can't.
know.
Like my point is like someone in Kansas can't stop someone like California. Kansas can't stop California from spending that California wants to spend. But because Kansas doesn't have that ability, Kansas shouldn't have to pay for California's issues.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot that goes into those decisions. For example, like what a Kansan, much easier.
Yeah, we just dropped the S and put an N in there.
I like it. So a Kansan and a Californian, they can feel those ways, and I can feel a certain way about having a theocracy as part of one of my states. But I think that we do, at the end of the day, care about evidence, and we care about critical thinking, and things do have to have legs. I'm not supposed to say critical thinking anymore. Things do have legs, and so something that doesn't have legs doesn't get as far as something that does have legs. And so my belief in that is that even if I'm paying for a theocracy, over time, I believe in America that will.
But you're okay paying for a theocracy then?
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay doing it.
If you are okay paying for a theocracy, then I will not argue. I will just leave it at, we have a fundamental disagreement about monetary policy and what should get paid for. Because if you're willing to live with that, then I can't argue. Then that is your fair point of view.
Yeah.
But if you're not willing to do that, then I think everything you've said doesn't have legs.
The thing is, in addition to being willing to, pay for some things I don't agree with, which I think is fundamentally what I mean.
It's being forced to pay for some things you didn't spend.
So being forced to pay for some things that I didn't spend, I am also going to, be politically active, try to, speak truth and help spread the things that I think make sense to mitigate those.
But those are
things that I think are silly.
Those are two different issues, though.
Yeah, but it's all my doing. I make the money to pay for this theocratic. Is that it?
Theocratic.
Okay.
Theocracy.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Theocratic state in my union of states, and it is happening. I mean, there's things that all over the place that I don't agree with in the United States.
Granted.
And so, and I know that I'm part of that, and I'm okay with some of. And there's even things worse than that. There's just straight up waste. There's straight up things that are like, bad, poorly administered, bad laws. But I am a big, I'm mature enough to be like, okay, I've seen this badness and I'm going to do a podcast and try to, make things better. And so you can do both.
I understand that.
Okay.
But I'm still saying is like, I don't think any of that. I think those are a bunch of different issues that are not necessarily related to whether one state should pay out. Federal dollars should go to bail out one state or any state when it's bailing out their
do you hear how
families.
dramatic that language is?
No,
You don't hear how dramatic that language is?
no. Bailing
Bail
out,
out,
yeah.
forced. Like,
Yes, those are you can quibble with, like, those are definitionally what is happening. You are bailouts. The definition of a bailout, when speaking about government, is when a government uses federal funds to decrease or to cover the debts of another entity. Right? They were bailed out.
it's a dramatic word.
You can, I mean, syntax is subjective, but
I think if I allowed myself to think in those terms, I would have a more outsized reaction, in my view, an overreaction.
Mhm.
But I see all the same things. I mean, I guess that's one thing that we can kind of, be on the same page on. I think we do see all the same things. Just my response isn't feeling forced and like being trapped and someone sticking their hand in my pocket and stealing my money. No, that's not like, and by the way, how much of it is your money? Like we are standing on the shoulders of giants here.
Mhm.
We're in a very privileged spot. We're in a very lucky spot. Like,
do you think that the money that you earn from your labor is your money?
I think that I am lucky to be in a society that rewards my labor as much as it does.
Okay, great. Is it your money or not?
Well, it's sadly, there's more to it. There's more to it because someone as capable as you, as capable as me, born in Bangladesh,
Mm-hmm.
not the same outcomes.
Is the money they earn their money? I didn't ask, like, are they being correctly rewarded for their money?
No, not even about being correctly rewarded, but we were born into a lucky spot.
Okay, great.
And so we get more
okay
for our labor and for our capabilities than we would in other places where we were born. Mm-hmm. And that system, it all is part of it. Okay. So it's not just
still not my question, but
yeah,
is the money
not
that
entirely,
you earned?
No, not entirely.
How is it not your money?
I'm stand on the shoulders of giants.
Okay, great. Everyone stands on the shoulders.
Not everyone.
Everyone stands on the shoulders of the people who came before them. Whether those outcomes have led to greater prosperity or lesser prosperity. Yeah. Everyone stands on what came before them, and to a certain extent on the people around, and are leaning on the people around them.
Yeah.
Granted, the money that they earn, is it theirs?
In America, it isn't all yours.
Why?
Because out of all of those, some people are standing on higher shoulders and had more prosperity and less. We have the most.
Okay.
So we're in the luckiest position.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something to feel bad about, but it's something to acknowledge and recognize.
Okay.
So
I recognize and acknowledge it.
So with that, you still are not without sacrifice. You still have to sacrifice.
Okay. Why?
You still have to be a good teammate. You still got to be a good American.
But that's still my choice to be a good American. But I don't think that you've
to not choose to be a good American is un-American.
Granted, but so I willingly pay my taxes every year. Like I pay what?
Willingly?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. Like, I mean,
I've heard you talk about 1099s and all that. So.
Oh yeah, no, I think that I don't like having to do my taxes, but I pay them willingly. I think I pay that. Do I pay too much?
I'm sure.
I mean, I definitely pay too much during the year because I just take I overpay, so I don't have too much of a bill when it comes due. But that's just me being a bad accountant and lazy.
You can change your.
Yeah, but I willingly pay my taxes. I don't necessarily think that tax policy is necessarily equitable or like the best way to get the most money out of everyone, or that I think it's distributed in a well-run way.
Sure. All fair.
yeah. That being said, my money is still mine. So I ask again, is the money that you earn?
I've answered it.
But
multiple
you've
times
said
now.
like but you keep talking about qualifiers.
Not entirely. I said not entirely. That's not a qualifier.
Okay,
That's
so
a full,
so why is it not why is it not entirely yours?
for all the reasons that I said.
Because people
Because I'm
before you
I'm
and
part of a
others-
team. Because my team before me was awesome. Like, so I get more. So I am more is required, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine if it's even off a little bit. I'm fine if it's even if I am paying more to help someone out that I disagree with, that is wasteful, that it like we this is happening. This is the reality.
I
And part of the joy of life is recognizing the reality of it. That might not always feel like a joy, but you know, sorry, that's making a clicking sound.
Saturday pants, man.
Like, yeah, I know.
Saturday pants.
Quarantine Saturday pants. There's a lot of overlap in that vendor.
Mhm.
But anyway, like, yeah, not entirely, and a big part of it is being a good teammate. And
Okay.
for me, that's not. Did that answer your question? I guess.
I think the big teammate part of it, or good teammate part of it,
Big teammate.
sort of answers it, but not in a satisfactory way.
Why?
Because you're not giving me a. Let's see if I can explain this well. You're not giving me a reason that's not a you're choosing to do the right thing reason. Does that make sense? So like let me take maybe
There's
take it.
some things
Let me
beyond
take it.
choice.
Yeah, but let me maybe
Yeah.
take it from where my perspective, right?
Hmm.
So like I would say like within the realm of the government, all of the money that I make, all of my labor is mine, right? But coming at it from my Christian standpoint, everything, all of my labor is actually God's, because He's given me the ability to do it. And maybe this will be where we have some connection with it, right?
Yeah.
And so some of that labor is supposed to go to the poor and the needy, and to the temple, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So like I can agree with that,
Mhm.
but that's not me. That's me and God. That's not me and man. Right.
Interesting.
So as far as the government is concerned, or another man is concerned, no, they don't have any right to my labor that they don't give to it.
You want to choose.
I
You
think
want
I
to
have the
choose
right
to give to.
I mean, yes, I believe I have the right to choose to give or not to give. I have the right to choose to be a good teammate or not a good teammate. But at the end of the day, no one has the right to tell me whether I'm a good teammate or whether I get to be a
team.
Yeah, but I mean, they don't get to tell me. I can be on a team and not participate well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
you
my
might
choice.
not be part of the team.
Well, but I mean, if we're talking about the U.S., it's like we're not going to kick a state out, right? We're either going to and again, it comes down to, if you have a bad teammate, what can you do?
Yeah,
You can either let them be and keep trying to go on, or you can force them to try to be a better teammate.
Or like it's more than just two options. I mean, there's probably hundreds of options.
We're also using a metaphor, so I mean,
sure,
it breaks down very quickly.
But you try to expose them to better thinking and why it's good to be a good teammate. And
okay, that's
there's
fine.
Situations in the past where they might have been.
They still have to choose to be that. Like, do you have any fundamental right to choose for them?
Yeah, I think some things I think there are some duties that come without choice.
I mean, I agree with that, but I guess I don't see that in the realm of fiscal policy, or at least this particular realm of fiscal policy.
We pay for stuff we don't want to pay for all
That's
the time.
great. That's fine. But
Is
I don't.
it?
Yeah.
I don't feel like that is. I feel like
Yes.
that isn't okay with you.
No, I mean, so like in the federal terms, I'm fine with paying stuff that I don't care for. Like the fact that a good chunk of my tax dollars go to Social Security, like not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Not my favorite thing.
Sure.
I'm fine with it. It's
Yeah.
a federal issue. It's across everything. Where I start having an issue is when it is the federal government coming down into states issues. So like if we have a national policy, great. I have a means of changing that. I have a representative and a senator who can change that, right? When it comes to our federal stuff is paying for local decisions. I don't have a choice saying that, right?
For other localities.
For other localities.
Yeah. So
I don't see why. I don't think that it is appropriate or moral or good to force people to use federal dollars, the things that are common fund,
Mhm.
to pay out specific things.
How
Maybe let's
Yeah,
try it
yeah,
again with like the neighborhood. So credit card house, not credit card house, right? But we have a neighborhood
I
association.
mean, I follow
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah, let me finish.
Sure.
We have a neighborhood association, right?
Mhm.
Neighborhood association is in charge of mowing the lawns, keeping the streets swept, making sure the garbage goes out, right? Everyone pays for that. It's a good communal thing, right?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, and
Just
like,
making recap notes.
yeah, thank you. But all of a sudden, like somebody decides like, okay, I want to plant a tree, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we're not a tree. We're not a tree.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
this is, you know,
I've lived in a neighborhood. Like
yeah,
that.
there's not a tree. So all of a sudden there's a tree, and we have seasons in this neighborhood. So all of a sudden the leaves fall down, right?
Yeah.
Well, and like, let's just say for whatever reason, half the neighborhood hates trees because of whatever.
Yeah.
They have we'll just say they have tree allergies.
Sure.
And the other half of the neighborhood doesn't.
Yeah.
Or likes trees.
Love
Right.
Tree huggers.
Those tree huggers. Yeah. This actually is getting a little more apt.
At first I thought you were gonna make the tree like orange with the leaves are all floating. Okay.
California is the tree neighbor.
Yeah. The tree huggers.
So all of a sudden,
Yeah.
So this house decides they want a tree. Fall comes, the leaves all fall down, right? Who's responsible for picking up all those leaves? Is it the neighborhood association because the leaves are everywhere? Or is it that one house because it's their tree? Right?
Yeah.
And some people are like, hey, we don't want a tree, but it's your house. You can do what you want. But now all of a sudden, their leaves are in our yard. Is it not the tree owner's responsibility and duty to take care of their tree and the consequences of it? Not the neighborhood associations?
Yeah.
Or the other houses?
Yeah. I see the analogy you're drawing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if you're asking me, I would think you would be, you like the tree person and like, because they're swinging their arms wherever they want and it goes wherever they want. And
until it gets into my yard and then that's them hitting me is where the analogy comes down. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there is just that subsection of the pie where there are things that your personal choices affect others, and that's why we have the neighborhood association is, well, yeah, we do all have to, wipe somebody else's ass every once in a while.
So the neighborhood association, the answer to my question is the neighborhood association is responsible for cleaning up the tree or the leaves.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if the choice is between like relying on this bad teammate or, it falls to the, it's unfortunate, but yeah, I mean, that's a very mild, nice analogy, but it's not it's gotta be done, and hopefully over time that person starts taking care of their tree.
Okay. So to real world, eventually you're hoping California actually runs in a budget positive instead of a deficit.
Yeah, or I don't expect governments to run surpluses. Like it's
I think they should run right at like budget neutral.
Well, so that's Keynes, right? Like, so there's not going to be on the line, right? You're going to be over or under. And so when you run a surplus.
Is over.
What's that?
Keynesian is surplus.
But he taught, so he was like, you spend a lot, you control, the government spends out money, but then when you do run a surplus, you start paying it back. You start covering those things. But that's not how America has done it. We have run surpluses at times and we didn't use it that way. And so we broke with that theory. And I
guess that's why people call it modern monetary theory. So they used one half of
post-Keynes.
Keynes' argument. I'm more of a Hayek fan myself, but
of course,
I'm just saying.
No.
Fiscal policy.
What's that?
Better fiscal policy. Boom and bust cycle is not a way to run things.
Yeah, it's called reality. I mean, that's basically
you say that all the time.
Well, yeah, I know.
It's like there's other parts of reality as well.
The thing is, though, you have to figure out how to deal well with reality, as opposed to like, no, this reality thing is terribly inconvenient.
But what I'm saying is, but you do that too. You do, like, both sides are doing it. You do that too. Like, boom and bust cycle is not necessarily a thing that happens in every single market sector.
There's gonna be surpluses. There's gonna be deficits. Figure out how to handle those as well as possible, and then stick to that when you do it. So we didn't do that. We haven't done that.
Right. Yes.
So we agree on that. But this rejection of reality, because it's inconvenient, because it is, reality is terribly inconvenient. Like, and imposing this, these unrealistic parameters on situations. It's great. It's fiction can be fun, but it's not how to deal with tough realities, which is what leadership is dealing with tough realities.
But the way you look at reality is not, yes, I agree with what you're saying. I just don't agree that what you're applying it in a correct manner. Yes, there are true Dickensian, boom and bust cycles and all that, but that doesn't mean that Hayek was wrong. You can't discount a way of looking at reality as not realistic just because you don't happen to agree with it.
It just no, but it doesn't help deal with hard situations. It doesn't help answer tough questions.
But you're just saying all you're really saying is this one way is the only way to deal with tough, hard situations.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that.
And I'm saying that there's multiple ways of looking at and dealing with tough, hard situations. You can't just dismiss things as being not unrealistic or a false parameter.
If you're trying to deal with reality better, that is good. If you are saying, I don't know, this reality thing, it's not helping.
But you're the only one who brought that in. Sorry, this is a point where I sometimes get frustrated, is I don't think that you are, I'm using yous. I don't think that that's necessarily fair to say that one thing is shoving reality aside or not. Does that make sense?
So here's maybe an illustrative example. So everybody, they don't give a hell. But Machiavelli, the Prince, don't agree with it. Don't think but it deals with reality.
Yes.
It works well in that if you're willing to kind of have no out of bounds in your game, the Prince and the things purported in it totally work. But so I understand, I appreciate it conceptually, but I think there are better ways to handle realities than that. So for Keynes, I think there are better ways to do it than the way he purported. It's not that I just think he's the only way to do it, but he is trying to deal with things that actually occur, as opposed to if we set things up in such a way that those realities won't happen.
Yes, but so just sticking with the Keynes versus Hayek was looking at the same data set and saying, no, but you're looking at it and you're not looking at these particular these other things. And so what you're saying is not reality. This is closer to what reality is. And so whether you go with Keynes or you go with Hayek, you're looking at a way of functioning you're just looking at two different parts or multiple parts of reality. right?
They're weighing
And they're weighing it. So so when you make a hard statement, I find it unhelpful when you make a hard statement saying, hey, we're just sweeping reality out of the side, when we talk about the elephant, right? It's like, maybe you're not seeing all of reality.
Yes, that could be very true. Like, because what I guess Hayek, thank you. They did see the same, they weighed it different. Different parts of it, they weighed differently. So I feel that the way that Hayek weighed it is further from reality than the way.
Well, I mean, and I can see where you would think that, because generally speaking, we've tended to follow Keynesian economic models over Hayek's models. Right. Because what Hayek was saying was, hey, all of these things where the government's spending out money is causing this to do like our boom and bust cycle, because and even in the private market, when like the housing market, like there was thought to be this asset here that wasn't a real asset. And then when it was reevaluated as the market will do, there's a huge collapse. And so if you aren't putting the air into the system, you're only going to get real growth. And that was the difference between them. Yeah, I don't know if I would call that the difference between them, but yes, I do see what you're saying. And it is, I think the way that you put it is a clear way of stating it, that they different value systems between the two weighed the same data set differently. Yeah. On that note, I think it has been an hour. It's been a little bit over an hour. Yeah. So yes, we did not land it well. No. We used the Biden things as jumping off points, which we will get better. I don't terribly mind that, but either way. So Jeremy, we had a politically charged conversation. We did. I think you still have some in that one over there. Good. Perfect. Yeah, we were friends before. Friends during. Friends after. Cheers. Welcome to Friendly Argument with J. Andrew Bernard and Jeremy Jones. Let's do this. New stuff. All the tangents. Some politics. Booze. Some more politics. Stuff about Kansas. And lots of cheersings. Friendly Argument is a podcast showcasing conversations that seek common ground across the aisle of American politics, as well as a few laughs. We hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for watching.